right, here we are again. I'm actually noticing that I'm starting to get comfortable again with my beard. I had to shave it off for Halloween, and it's now back to the place that I kind of like it. It's more bushy,
Yeah, it's
so
back.
I'm more comfortable seeing myself on camera, I guess is what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I'm now actually taking notice, Jeff, because in my mind you always wear a very nice beard, right? So,
Right.
uh,
But on Halloween, I shaved it off, and it
yeah,
was,
you
I felt
did.
my face was naked. I didn't like it, but this is back to being comfortable.
Way better.
Man, it has not, I don't know about you, but January has not disappointed me at all. I thought, I told the family I was going to get very busy in January, and sure enough, it has. Um, it's been, it's been crazy busy, like, which is good. I mean, it's all kinds of good stuff, but boy, are you feeling the same thing?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, back on track. There was, of course, a little bit delay because of all of the Christmas days and holiday days. But fortunately, the entire team has been during those days super hard at work at the office.
I
So
know. Well,
very
to the point that
surprising.
one of them got really sick.
Uh,
He worked so hard, he made himself sick. He said too much, too much. He needed a break.
yeah,
All right, so let's get into it. So this is going to be, we're going to cover the roadmap and then the bridge. The way I'm going to do it, we'll do the roadmap. We'll walk through it. I'll bring it up on screen, and we can walk through our general sense of how we organize it and everything. We won't go point by point. That'll take too long. And then we'll talk more in depth about the bridge because that's a big topic for everybody. And then we'll go back to the roadmap and just leave it up on the screen. People can ask questions in the chats. From what I understand, if you ask your question either on Telegram or in YouTube, it shows up on our screen over here, so we can see the Solana Fox has already said good morning. So appreciate that. Yeah, so we'll see your comments, but we are going to try to get through all of it and it's going to try to do the whole thing in an hour. It might be a little bit hard to do because it's a lot of stuff to go through. Let me bring up the roadmap and share it out now. I've just given it to all of our mods too, so they now have access to it. They can post it in all of our channels and everything. I'll have this most updated copy. So is that clear enough to read? You can zoom in maybe. All right.
yeah.
So
Depends on the compression.
yeah. So the way that we approach it, right? We set the goals for each quarter, and I would say that they're flexible in that is prepare for launch really going to take us all 3 months? Probably not. Will blast off happen at the very beginning of Q2, hopefully, but a little bit of flex. But in general, we're looking at it this way: the first 3 months will be about preparing for the launch. In Q2, we're going to hit the launch button, or as soon as we can, really, but hit the launch button on mainnet. In Q3, we'll be scaling out what we've got live, and then Q4 is about saturating it, just adding a bunch of projects and adding more nodes and getting the network even more robust. So that's generally how people should look at 2025. We're pretty excited because we feel like not only is it a lot of work, but it's all manageable with the team and the prep we've done in the first year. It's kind of interesting to know. This is kind of like the 1 year anniversary of us relaunching and being focused on the DePIN. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like that, right? And then in March, when the network goes operational and potentially also the TG, then would be exactly, I believe isn't it like a 3 years anniversary?
2 years.
The original, yeah, I think it's a 3 years anniversary from the original token launch.
No, I thought it was 2023, wasn't it? 2 years.
Yeah, so it's 2 years.
Yeah, it goes fast. I know.
It goes fast.
All right, so let's circle in on what we mean by Q1 and what we're saying there. So in the first quarter, we're talking about, and everyone knows we've got the alpha testing, preparing to send out the hardware for the first group of testers in the alpha wave, and then getting that testnet live. That's kind of the goal for this quarter, a big one for us. So we can get people playing games on our network, showing once again to everybody who says, but can this be done? And is it at low latency? Yes, to both of those things. That's the important piece. We also are geared up for our node sale. Get those nodes get the licenses in the hands of people. I'm getting ready, by the way, to publish another article. We did the one on the bridge, but then we have another one that explains the nodes in better detail. That's going to go out probably right after this live stream on our Medium. Important that the advertisement gets on the network. That's actually to help these independent studios afford the streaming costs. So basically, they stream for free. If they want to employ advertisement, it's not the only way. Not everyone will do it, but we're going after these indie game developers. And and then the token bridge, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about after we go through all of this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the quick brush through the getting ready to launch. Anything you want to add to this? Or I don't have to do all the
Yes.
talk.
So Jeff, do you want to go more in depth on certain points already here, or do you want to recap after we discuss?
I feel like if we do, well, I feel like if we go through the whole thing real fast, people will start having questions, and we'll come back to the areas that people are most concerned about, right? So I'll bring this back up on screen when we get to the question section. So I think blast through it real quick, and we can spend more time on the bridge.
Yeah, maybe the only thing is the node structure, right? So we're going to release a whole bunch of new information about how the nodes are going to work, because we basically redesigned entirely how the structure is going to, what structure is going to look like, right? So maybe that is something to talk about, or do you want to also save that for a separate session later on?
Well, I guess we could see what happens when the article drops and what kind of questions come up in the community chat. And we've decided that we have to do a town hall exactly just focused all the way around nodes. Maybe we do that.
Sure. Okay. Then let's just
or
proceed.
again, if questions come up, like let's take them then. All right, Q2 about blast off. Right, this is when we go from alpha, from testnet to mainnet, and we do the token mint on the Peaq chain. Obviously, two very big pieces. The delegation of those nodes goes live. Right, people will have a node can start delegating through our partners, and getting on central exchanges. Those are, I think, probably the ones I'd say really big pieces of our structure and our year this year. Anything you want to go more in depth on these?
No, this all makes sense. I think it's important also to highlight that the points that are listed, they're in the order of how we are planning also to execute on these, right? So
it's that we're expecting to execute on them, right?
Yeah, that's the goal, right?
Yeah. Yep. In Q3, we start getting into launching more of those Genesis nodes, getting more projects on board, getting more hardware distributed. The integration with Metagravity, which again, we still haven't gotten the official announcement out there yet. We're working on that behind the scenes with Metagravity, but getting that large multiplayer, large-scale multiplayer, serverless architecture up and running and working with us it's going to be massive when you think about it, right?
Yeah. And also, I see phase 2 here. Maybe we want to tell a little bit about what that means. Phase 2, how we decided to organize effectively the node collections.
You really want to talk about these nodes, don't you?
No, yeah. I mean, what's the level of detail I want to go here, right? So.
Yeah. All right. I mean, go ahead. I'll give you the floor. Go ahead and talk a little bit about why we're doing the nodes in these different phases.
Right. So the idea being, we won't go into the specifics of what the nodes exactly are going to look like and the amount. Well, the amount we can reveal. So it's 25,000 nodes that we're aiming to sell and distribute and get live throughout this year. And our aim is actually to release a new collection every year, just like with the iPhone, just like with a lot of brands out there, that every year you have like this stable heartbeat. There's going to be a new collection, right? So rather than what a lot of DePIN projects out there do is they state upfront their entire tiering system, which scales up with the price. We just say, okay, we don't like that model. Instead, it's going to be collections, right? All of the best nodes are, of course, in the earlier collections, because those are early supporters. And as we release more collections to the masses, those collections become less rare. So the number increases over time. And also the relative boost that you would get on your node decreases per collection. Now, there are also ways to get around that by participating in the community, by staking and all of that, but we won't go into detail. Now, every collection, right? So we start with the Genesis collection, can be split up in different editions. So there's different editions. So you can imagine the Genesis collection or the Genesis series, and then there is the Martians editions, right? Assuming we do some kind of like edition with the Martians versus Roughneck gaming studio that we have partnered with, and so forth. So that way we can really split up the entire collections into specific white label branded, cool looking nodes. so that for every individual, for every community, we have a particular collection available. Now it's all optional, so there will also be more like generic YOM branded collections, but that really depends on the reseller and the partner we're in talks with. Now the idea being that there are multiple waves throughout the year, right? So every sale is ideally tied to a single edition, right? So that's how we aim to fully realize the 25,000 nodes sold and distributed and online.
Right.
Yeah,
But
I think
keeping in mind that we're trying to keep this relative to the amount of traffic that the network is generating, right? We don't want to put nodes in the hands of people that aren't able to earn any kind of yield from them. So if as network traffic scales, then we put more of these series out. That's why it's a projection that we're be able to put up phase 2 in Q3. It could be that we get so much work done in Q2 that we need to bring them forward.
Yeah.
Or there's not enough games on there, so we move it back so that the yield is still high for the people who are running nodes.
Exactly, 100%. So in the end, it's always going to be the interplay between whatever we forecast, whatever top-down planning we apply to the market versus, okay, what are the results? How quickly can we scale? What are the specific constraints or specific demands that need to be met in a particular region? So it's always like this mix of, okay, top down versus bottom up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I didn't really mention, but the idea of supporting AMD cards, that's very important to my son, who is doing all kinds of ridiculous amounts of research on what graphics card. Matter of fact, I didn't tell you yet, but he would like to have a phone call with you at some point to explain to you what is the best hardware for a node after all of his intensive research. He's 13, folks, and he's just absorbed with learning about hardware. So I don't know if I'm going to get a chance to set that up. I told him you're very busy, but he seems insistent.
I think, yeah. Is he also a gamer, by the way?
Yeah, massive. That's all he does. For Christmas, he got the steering wheel and the stick shift and the foot pedals. He's been playing Forza Horizon 6 or 5, I guess. Forza Horizon 5. He finished the whole story in like 2 days. So
it's kind of like the same psychology. Like a lot of the hardcore gamers, they want to build their own rig. They want to optimize for certain graphics or certain specs that like the games that they can run on, the FPS they can handle that. It's the same for you, right? Yeah. So for YOM it's the same. The difference is you don't play the game, you make money, right? So but it's the same skills. So if you're a gamer, if you're a hardcore gamer, you know how to build good rigs, and now there's finally an opportunity for you to exercise your skills.
Monetize that skill. Yeah.
Monetize that.
Yeah. And then we also have the concept of having the DAO formalized in Q3 as well, so we can start building up that governance structure. And that's, again, if that's something that's interesting to you, work on your YRX, because it's going to play a part in how you're how you can play a part in the DAO. Yeah. And then Q4, the goal there is saturation, just getting, again, our network up to, now we have the number of 60% capacity on average. Let's talk about that, because it seems like 60% doesn't seem like a whole bunch, but tell us why, we landed at that number.
Yeah. So like first of all, the goal saturation doesn't mean like, okay, after saturation, you're almost done. No, that means saturation of that first collection, obviously, right? So that means that we'll be aiming for as many sessions, as many ACUs, so active concurrent users, to be onboarded on the network. Now, is it possible to go to 100%? Theoretically, yes, but that also means that we have to make sacrifice on the user experience, because then people end up in queues, right? So all of our estimations, all of our reward metrics and the average payout, and so it's all based on 50% average utilization of the network. That's our average target. But as we discover that, as we learn that the network becomes increasingly more oversaturated, and we're talking about like the base level. So if the base level gets to be about 60%, 65%, we will be indeed triggered to start deploying a second collection, right? So that is for us so rather than just deploying new collections because we want to sell collections, that's not how it works, right? So we need the network to first be saturated. We need our node operators to be happy. So that's one of the targets we're aiming for. And happy node operators, that means basically that you earn more than the average income per node on average, right? So because you'll always have that in low demand areas, you'll make less money than in high demand areas. But as we reach that 60% goal, then that's for us like the trigger. Okay, we need to now do some scaling, and we need to prepare for a bigger upgrade onto the network. So that means like the Numite collection. That's the next collection for next year will be deployed. And it also ensures. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to jump off, but go ahead. What was your last?
Yeah, that also ensures that we have partially control over the rollout and also over the rewards, right? So that, so that everybody happy in the end.
Yeah. All right. Not to leave off the important part that we get the Unity SDK also on the schedule for the end of the year. We've already had some conversations with Unity. They're on board for being a part of this, but they also recognize that it's enough to get Unreal up and running before we join the Unity group.
Yeah, what do we mean here with additional hardware distribution? Right.
I think we're talking about more than just the first wave of devices, which right. I think came. We say that every quarter, like basically every quarter we start in Q2 shipping hardware, the actual physical nodes for people who don't want to delegate, who want to self-host. But we expect it we'll be growing our self-hosting people all the way through Q3 and Q4.
No, here's the thing, right? So now we do need to talk about self-hosted and delegation. Because it intertwines with that, and we haven't talked about that. People don't know what does self-hosted mean, what does delegated mean, what's the difference, what's the SSD, what's the disk. Well, they do know about the disk, right? They should know.
Right.
But there are also people who are like, oh yeah, why should I buy a disk? I have Linux here on my base computer, and I have 10 terabytes of storage available, right? So why would I need a disk? So we can.
Yeah, you want to do that again? That's the whole article. You're front running my article drop.
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk a little bit about it then. There's the difference between self-hosted and delegating. So, our original plan. I think we've talked about this in prior. I'm gonna get this off the screen. In prior town halls was we had the hardware device, and we were selling the hardware device to everybody at the same price. It was retailed at $9.99. And feedback that we got was, hey, that's a steep price. But again, our counter to that was, well, the returns are well over that, once we get to capacity. But we did start to kind of circle around the idea that if you're running a 2060 card, you could run 2 streams concurrently. But if you're running a 4090 card, you can stream 8 streams concurrently. So it was not equitable to say the starting price was the same for everybody, but your rate of return of yield was going to be different depending on what machine you had. That didn't make much sense to us as we thought about it. So what we've done now is decoupled. What we started was, okay, let's decouple that, right? We'll say that we'll sell the hardware device with 2 licenses, or 2, basically operating 2 nodes on your machine, because every base machine can do this. And then if you want to scale up because you have a more powerful graphics card, you would buy more licenses and operate more nodes. So, if you've got a 4030, I guess it is, you can run about 4 nodes. You buy 2 more licenses to go with the hardware, all the way up to the 4090s with 6 licenses added to the original 2. But then we realized if we're doing these individual node license sales, we could just take those, and people who don't have the beefy computers but want to work with one of the nodes as a service providers that we're partnered with, they can just buy those node licenses and delegate those licenses to the service providers. And there's a good amount of those, and we like a number of them. So that's when we decided, okay, so now you can get into the game and earn yield at a $99 investment rate. Right, so it's a pretty good, easy entry for people who want to earn money, and it helps us out because they do the legwork for us to find machines around the world through the nodes as a service. Is that a pretty good summary, Jort, or how you want to add to that?
Yeah, no, definitely. So what this looks like also from a user flow perspective is it's very simple. They somehow via either a launchpad or directly via our website, they come to acquire one of those limited node licenses. After they have acquired one, they go by themselves to one of our partners. We haven't announced those, but they go to one of our partners. They log in with the wallet that has the node license on that wallet. They go there to the platform. There's a big button. Okay, one click to delegate. A contract gets set up between you and the delegation provider. You pay for a monthly fee, fixed fee, and then in return you receive a variable amount of YOM tokens, right? And under base network conditions, that means that you will make a very nice markup on top, because what we do is like we add value as a service on top of the base computing, and that's actually the difference that you participate in, right? So that's how it works for a delegation. Now we recommend that delegation option for those who, like Jeff said, want to get started right away. They don't want to worry. They don't have a gaming machine. They just want to make money. Here you go. Here's your option, right? And for those that do want to optimize their rig, they want to have more profitability, they want to increase their control over the system. To them we provide basically the self-hosted approach. Within the self-hosted option, there are also different ways to get in. So it all depends on your hardware setup. If you don't have the hardware, you can buy the rig yourself. Go indeed for 30, 80, 30, 90, 40, 90, like the better, of course, the better. And then at the moment you have that, you either order a device from our website. So then the SSD, the disk with our own proprietary operating system, it's Linux-based, gets sent to your home. You plug it in, you boot from it, done, right? It's super simple to use. So that's for like most of the retail would come in that want to go for self-hosted approach and optimize the profits. Now, for us, this also provides an opportunity to go into more of the traditional retail as well, right? So we can package this entire format and deliver via Amazon, or we go for large tech retailers and web shops, right? So it's in addition to it being super easy, it's also partially an additional channel where it allows us to sell across multiple channels. Now, the last option, and that's for the more technically inclined, that's indeed like deploying your own Docker container with the entire operating system onto your Linux configuration. Do keep in mind, you also need to allocate, like I believe at the minimum 1 terabyte of free storage on your disk. But yeah, for the more technically inclined, that's the way to go, and you save some more money, I would say, on the device itself. Now, it does mean that, so with the device, you do get those 2 free licenses as part of the $349 price tag. If you go for entirely self-operating, you do need to acquire licenses from other locations, right? So that means acquiring a node license from somewhere else, but then the total cost is only $200 rather than $350. So you save about $150 in cost.
Right. Yeah. Again, this article is going to drop here after this live stream, so people will get to see it in writing too. But when we say licenses, we're saying operating a node which is equal to a single stream, a single concurrent user at any time.
Right.
That's the best way to look at it. All right. Let's jump into the bridge. You ready for this?
Yeah, let's go.
All right. So we we published the article on Medium that kind of goes through, and I was actually, maybe that's a better idea. Maybe I'll pull. Is it better for me to pull up the Medium article and we'll walk through it?
Definitely. Yeah, let's do that.
I have the other Medium article up right now. Give me half a second and I'll bring it up. Where'd you be? Here it is. People should have seen this already in the. So if you're not following our Medium, that's a mistake. You should be following our Medium account because it's got. We do a lot of our communication through Medium because again, a lot of what we do is complex enough that it has to be written out. And this the process of writing it out kind of helps us understand it better ourselves, which of course we like.
So Jeff, I don't think anybody is seeing anything on the screen yet.
No, I'm getting it up right now. Patience.
Yeah, you're an old man, Jeff.
No, I had the new one that I'm going to be publishing in a second up on my screen. So actually, I think this is the. It is. This isn't the right one. I have the sample one up. There it is.
So Solana is saying, I'm just going to address questions in the meantime. I assume that the nodes will be able to update getting software. That's entirely correct. So as part of the middleware, it automatically patches itself with the latest software.
Yeah. All right, let's hit it. So, all right. Holy shit! What's actually happening? So we're going again. This is was very proud of himself from this article, and he read it ought to be. There's a lot of information here, but it also is fun to read. So yeah, the alpha network's going to be kicked off, and then we're going to take that testnet live. We'll have the nodes available for people. We'll have the central exchange trading our token, and we're going to be bridging over from Solana to Peaq. So let's talk about why Peaq, right? I think what you put here is really good. The idea that Peaq is Solana is a hot and sweaty market and it's filled with a whole bunch of projects. How many new meme coins, or how long does it take for meme? Every 3 seconds, some degenerates putting out.
And that's not Solana's fault, right? So Solana by itself is a very clean, minimal chain. They don't involve themselves too much into the ecosystem, whatever projects is building on their on their chain. And I mean, I respect that approach. I like it in some sense because it's the laissez-faire open source approach. But the result of that is that you get a lot of network spam, right? The problem is that the network spam has evolved into something that is much more monstrous. So it's now like the network spam now has some sort of has received some kind of identity, and some people call those spam tokens, they call them memes. And now it was so problematic, I would say, for the entire ecosystem, at least for the other projects, that projects like YOM decided, there is no fun being here because even our community is like trying to get us on the same playing field as the memes, right? So there are expectations that memes do kind of work for in terms of you need to do wash trading, you need to moon basically within the first 3 days, and if you don't meet those conditions, then you should not, as a trader or as a buyer, invest into that project. Now, if the general consensus of the people buying into these memes is like that, then there's no place for YOM, because YOM doesn't play along those rules. We don't burn our liquidity because we may want to move our token cross-chain, right? Then you cannot burn your liquidity. A lot of memes, they stick to Solana, so they're fine burning their liquidity. Now, that means that on a lot of the DAX platforms and a lot of the tooling, it shows up, YOM hasn't locked their liquidity, so it's a potential risk, it's a potential concern, right? So there are a lot of things that is very difficult for projects like ours to compete with these memes. The last part is also that liquidity, right? So a lot of volume, so most crypto volume actually takes place on Solana, but it's spread thin across all of these projects, all of these memes. So 99%, maybe even more, is a meme token. I think about 99.99% of all of the, even more, right? So it's a tiny fraction. There are only like a handful of DePINs on Solana, even though Solana has like the DePIN reputation, right? So, or at least it had this reputation. Okay, it's DePIN and it's memes. But there are only like about 10 projects. We're, I think, the 7th or 8th biggest DePIN on the Solana ecosystem. Now, if you look at the FTVs of those DePINs, there's of course Render and Helium and a few others taking most of volume. I think it's Nosana. But the others, yeah, there it's not moving. It's you're literally invisible. And you're trying to grasp for air while you're trying to maneuver into the space. Well, everybody at the same time is saying, yeah, you have to stay on Solana because it has liquidity and it's a good chain and all. And yeah, I mean, we've been on Solana for years, right? We know the ecosystem. We've been on Solana when it's entirely dead. We're still on Solana. So for us, that was the trigger. Okay, there's too much congestion on Solana. We have to now start building alliances with ecosystems that actually take their content seriously. And even though I don't like the idea of content moderation, that's against my principles. I do think that if you look at game theory, the chains that support good content will survive in the end. You see the same with social media. You see the same with a lot of the platforms out there. The content is what makes the chain successful, right? So that's why we should ally ourselves with a chains that build similar or at least demonstrate similar content to the YOM project. And that's what, from that angle, we picked Peaq. And it doesn't mean that necessarily all of the trading needs to take place on Peaq. I would even say, at this point, Peaq has zero volume. So that means, okay, we need to integrate also with other ecosystem. We'll be moving also liquidity back to Solana. So that's all fine. This is more about, okay, where's the home base? What's the core technology? Who are you working with? What contracts are being deployed? Specific technical requirements that need to be there, at least help us out a lot.
I think that's a massive one, right? Because again, now we just had an hour and 15-minute long conversation with the team again just this morning to go over other things that, other ways to make sure that we're coordinated with them. They've been, getting on a phone call with Peaq has been, you'd say the ease has been infinitely easier than Solana, because Solana has, I think we've been on the call with them twice, maybe.
Yeah, and then we get figures, right? So then we get some like ecosystem that has zero knowledge about like literally I don't want to offend the Solana people, but about the technicalities, right? You need access to the devs. Now, nobody gets access to the Solana devs. However, with Peaq, we have direct access. So today we were in a call with like I don't want to say the entire team.
No, it was good size, right?
Yeah, but it was like it was a good size. Like there were 6, 8.
There's like 6 of them and 2 of us. So
then the core devs and the core business developers at the same time, so we could really align on like specificalities, like how do you deal with delegation, right? So the idea that an end user has a contract or some a contract with a compute provider. Like, how do you ensure that that we tie that in with one of the node licenses that we have, right? They help us on that. So they provide the feedback, the support, the audits to make that a reality. Whereas with Solana, you have to really go figure out yourself how you're going to do that. Fortunately, we now have the experience of Solana and doing it ourselves now mixed in with also the specific niche focus that Peaq that helps us with.
Think of Solana as a great mini mart. I can get coffee from a mini mart. It's okay. But if I really want really good coffee, I go to a place that's specifically built for coffee, for making coffee. And that's Peaq is that coffee. I was looking for an analogy that worked, and that's the first thing that came to my head.
Really good one. Yeah. But then you still want to, of course, distribute your goods into the larger warehouse, so to say, right? So the one doesn't exclude the other. So that's the.
All right, so let's talk about rewards, burns, and scarcity.
I think this is again like hating on the meme culture. So it's like, okay, right? You can view a token investment from 2 angles. The one is more oriented on the intrinsic tokenomics and the fundamental value. So it is usually done through some sort of scarcity increasing mechanism whether that is lockups, staking, or burning, right? So burning is of course the best way to achieve that, versus hype, right? So, and like that the fundamentals of the token are entirely based around some sense of hype there, right? I think the last one is very scary, and it should be very scary for retail to get into these kinds of projects. And this is of course where the casino and the gambling projects take off. But I would say, aside from the memes and the casino coins, a lot of the utility tokens also are inclined to go into that direction, because that's kind of where the traders and the market expect you to go. So they forget about the fundamentals, they forget about what they're actually building, and they're going into the wrong direction. So we decide against that. We still, of course, want to go and take the hype where possible, but we see that more as an optimization of the network and the operational excellence we produce, rather than that is the home base where all of our fundamentals are derived. And I think up to now, we can already show that we haven't done a lot on the marketing. So it's not necessarily that we're going
no one's going to mistakenly think we're a hype-driven company.
Yeah. It's actually the reverse, and I would say, okay, that's the for a lot of investors, that's actually where the opportunity hinges.
But honestly, going back a year ago when you and I had our very first conversation, it was about the fundamentals of what makes for a strong economy, not just in the game world, but just, I think we were both ranting about fiat and how silly it is that you just print money out of nothing, as opposed to having a cap supply and saying, okay, the cap supply is you have to scale everything within that cap supply, which is what we do, and same as what Bitcoin does. And then for us, we drop it off we have more scarcity, which increases the value of each one that exists, because as we get more traffic, we burn more. So everyone's incentivized. Both the game players and the token holders are incentivized for a lot of traffic, because it means that they earn more, and each one that they earn actually goes up in value as well, because it's less of them. It's the expectation, anyways. This is not financial advice, but that's kind of the way it's designed.
And this ensures that all stakeholders in the ecosystem are aligned, right? Everyone is just monitoring, network usage, because that means burning. That means effectively that the nodes get rewarded, and they will lock up their tokens to get increased yield, right? So it's like and by aligning all stakeholders, it also makes it easier for us to concentrate and focus our efforts.
Right.
Because what we see with a lot of projects is that at some point the token is going to live its own life, and then the goals of the token investors are completely disparate from the goals that the company behind, or that attempts to support the token is trying to accomplish. And these ecosystems will likely break, because it's very difficult, or split, right? That's also fine, but it's very hard to put them together. Whereas with YOM, I think we have that very aligned focus on node operators and network adoption throughout. And that also shows off here. So this is a nice chart. I don't think we didn't describe this chart too much throughout the article, but what it shows, it's basically a metric that we derived from our sales forecasts. So just looking at the studios onboarding and the ticket sizes, we looked at what's the average node payout, and from there we are able to derive the burn and the lockups. And then what is interesting here is that if you purely look at it so if you just assume that all of the rewards that go to the nodes get sold and dumped on the market, then just purely looking at the token burn, so by the end of 2029, we have sold $45 million in rewards accumulated, right? So this is like the sum. It's not a monthly burn, but just the total burn has exceeded the 45 million. Now, what that means is that literally the ceteris paribus, which is like all other conditions being equal, that means that this burning mechanism must drive up the price on the network, right? Assuming, of course, we hit at least some level of adoption on the network, right? This
Right.
model increases over time because we assume that it's getting easier and easier to onboard studios. But even if we don't, even if it like finds some flat level, we keep on burning every month. So the price still increases every month.
And if we get some time to do that, we should. I'd like to hit on my recent conversations with the studios I found this past week and talk about why it was so exciting having the conversations with studios. All right, so here we go.
So it's called the 4D chess strategy because it was very easy to explain it in 2 steps, but very hard. It is like all of the factors combined and all of the things going on under the hood to align all of that to come up with these simple enough 2 steps. That was the 4D chess strategy here. But also, it was not just us coming up with that strategy. It was also our partners at Peaq and many of the advisors around us.
Right.
What it comes down to is that earlier we proposed a simple, very pure, elegant 2D chess approach where users can use Stargate, which is an existing front-end layer. Well, we would still have to build the layer 0 contracts and we have to deploy them. But after that is done, then our users, our investors can just easily migrate over their YOM tokens to the Peaq network without any difference in value whatsoever. So that was the initially proposed bridge, but then we received some very good offers also from the Peaq network, and also so that's point 2, that's the Peaq support. But also we realized that like on the YOM network, if you look at the token holders, a lot of the quite a significant portion is held dormantly by exchanges. One of the exchanges, of course, Maxi. We don't know how they got those tokens. I guess it's unclear to us, but at least we do know that we don't need those tokens on the network. So by moving entirely and going for a new contract, we eliminate those now dormant tokens on the network. It could entirely be the security depot. Originally, when we listed on Maxi, it could be also the total accumulation of all of the YOM tokens that were not withdrawn from the Maxi platforms that are now stored in some sort of pile. I think it's the latter, but we don't know exactly. At least what we do know is that it's significant. It's like 3% of tokens. So we lose that. Effectively, that means that all of the token holders don't have to worry about Maxi deciding to dump YOM tokens on the market because we lose them, and also any wallet that is lost. You also benefit from those. So that is point 1. It's a clean house. So the project moves on with the real believers, and that means also that everybody will profit from that move. Even if you decide, okay, I'm going to want to opt for the option where I'm 100% liquid at the vesting. So whatever you do, bridge, right? Bridging is always better. It's a good thing in general. It's
and be careful that you're bridging. Just a real quick warning: bridge where we tell you to bridge. Don't fall for somebody else setting up a false site and stealing your YOM. Don't let that happen to you. So pay attention to our socials. And go to our sites. Go ahead.
And point 3 is, of course, that it's us saying, okay, like there are better solutions right now on the market, and then Solana, for example, Peaq. But that's more like a broader societal thing.
Point out, this is actually still 2D chess, just so you know, right? You recognize that picture is 4D chess looks completely different.
But maybe there are some. I guess today, the AI is getting. I hope for some kind of like trippy layer on top of the chess pieces, so the chess pieces don't make sense, and then it's
it's not as smart as we want it to be at times. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So what's happening to the old token? And um, again, I don't have to go through the whole thing. Obviously, people can read it. But if you want me to skip to the next section, but
Yeah,
um,
so the moment you bridge, the value of your portfolio increases. And yeah, up to the point where you almost like 15 cents. So if the YOM token is 1 cent, let's say the YOM token is 1.5 cents, then it's a 10x. If YOM is 12 cents, then it's like a 20% increase, right? So and so forth. So that difference is the value increase. Don't scroll. Don't scroll.
no, sorry. Go ahead.
So you have that, but this is the maximum discount, right? So you can say, okay, I want less discount. Now, why would you want to go for less discount? Because that way you can control the maximum vesting time. So if you, for some reason, need to be liquid in, let's say, 6 or 7 or 8 months from now, because you believe that the imaginary bull run is over, then you have to ensure that you position the slide at exactly the right time for so that you can sell your tokens at exactly the right moment, right? So there's also a table with more explanation on that, on how that works.
Yeah, if you look at the table, but basically what we're saying is we'll set up a slider and allow you to control the vesting period that you want to put in, and that vesting period that you yourself enter in determines your reward or your boost. Which is, again, this is something that didn't necessarily have to do, I guess, but we just felt like it was the right way to do it. It's the best way to be fair to our token holders.
Yeah, exactly. That's it, right? So some people, they don't necessarily mind that they dilute in the amount of tokens as long as that their value stays the same. So they mind about being 100% liquid, right? So for them, we have a solution. For those who want to just like hold on for life, we have a solution. Yeah,
And you can
it's
anywhere in between there.
yeah.
I mean, it goes back to one of our core principles is to be fair to the people who are been fair to us, right?
Yeah, and it's significant also. So if you just like if you look at the discounts, it's a massive discount.
You want to go back up?
Whatever month you're at, so it's 6 months is 60%. Now we do aim to keep this kind of like, yeah, of course now it's on social media because we have to make this public to the community, but the goal is not to spread it around, right? So the moment the bridge is really meant for the existing community and the people, the insiders who want to migrate their tokens. It also means that the moment the bridge goes live, that we will also reduce liquidity because we want to prevent new people coming in trying to buy up tokens to participate in the discount, right? So that is really important. So you have about max 2 weeks to buy in on YOM, and afterwards it's you cannot participate in the Discord anymore. So that's why this entire thing is also meant for existing holders. We're also not going to market this other than just making it very clear to the community. Okay, this is, you have to now take notice and start doing something with your YOM tokens, right? That's the only thing.
All right. Last little bit, we included the breakdown for the tokenomics, where we're putting the who's getting what ecosystem, the treasury, the private round.
That's so here's the thing. So if you scroll a little bit up, there. The Sol scan, right? So we made a calculation. All of the official YOM wallets are listed on Sol scan, so you can exactly see how many wallets are owned by YOM. Everything is on chain. There's no other way than to transact on chain. And considering that all of our wallets are doxed, yeah, everyone has the ability to come to the same conclusion. So we hold 69.06% of the total supply. We redistribute that into new allocations. So 20% is going to the ecosystem allocation, which is a buffer. It's designed to ensure that in times of low network activity, that we can still afford to pay out the node holders, and in high, well, it's a flat reward, so it's always being paid out, but it also means that every node, 10% of their rewards is actually paid out to this ecosystem pool, and then they receive like a flat reward to offset that. This, yeah, it's basically universal basic income.
Don't say that like that.
Yeah, let's make it politically charged. Now there's of course there's a good reason for this, because the moment you have your computer available, you do work, you're available, there is some like base electricity costs that go with that. In order to support that, we kind of like need to reward you with a flat fee. So that's how it works. And this only gets initiated after you're online for at least 6 hours, to also ensure to promote dedicated setups over setups that are just there when demand is there, right? Now the second bit is the treasury. That involves all of the non-programmatic transactions. So it's like payments to exchanges, marketing, certain grants with the goal of like further adoption of the network. Anything that bolsters our non-profit mission. So if you look at the on-chain transaction, you see very low selling from the treasury. Almost, you see zero selling. And how do we do that? That's because we have revenues coming in other ways, right? So, like literally, this is the foundation. So there's a split. We have the non-profit foundation. The foundation will also be governed by a DAO. Temporarily, of course, it's us governing it, because we have to bootstrap the fundamentals. And next to that, there is also a company that does the onboarding of the actual studios and makes profit on those studios, right? So the company takes 20% of the rewards, the other 80% get distributed among the ecosystem. Then we have the private and public round. In total, we aim for 5%. It's very small tickets, so the private rounds is really tiny, just to ensure that we don't actually lose money when we start doing a TG. And it covers the marketing expenses and the exchange and market making that is necessary to do the TG, because we don't aim to make a loss on all of these efforts. So there is a little bit of that needs to be raised.
Although if we did decide to aim to do it at a loss, it'd probably be pretty easy. Maybe for ease of things, let's just go ahead and aim at losing, because that's easier to do than aiming at winning.
Right.
No, right. Bad idea. My wife would probably believe me if we did that.
But there's also the public round, right? So the public round, these are the people who buy in at 15 cents. We aim to also utilize that opportunity to further also the sale of our nodes. So if you take the opportunity to go for the public round and any of the connected launch pads, you also get maybe like a free node on top of that, right? So that is the way also we aim to do this. And the final, like all of the remaining tokens, so that's the 9.06% of tokens remaining, get added to the liquidity pool. So they can be used, not added all at once, of course, obviously, but added gradually as the volume and the adoption increases over time. But at least it's reserved to that allocation. I think that's it in terms of the everything.
All right. So go read the article, get yourself acquainted with it, come back and ask questions. We've got a whole bunch of questions here now, so maybe we'll jump into those as well. Right. I've been meeting with studios already and game developers, and I got to say, I told Jort and these guys, it's gonna be the easiest. It's got to be the easiest thing to ever convince somebody to go ahead and use, because these game developers very quickly catch on that they can post a game, the streaming cost gets covered in many different ways, but they can reach a much larger audience and help out. In the case of the one studio, They had Web3. They built a game, had Web3 integration in it. They couldn't put it on Steam because Steam didn't allow for it. So they just put it on a shelf and then never shipped it. So they're like, well, we put it up on our website, integrate with the with the Phantom wallet, or I guess it would be the Phantom wallet, and they're up and running and they're earning money from their game the way they had intended to do. So it's a very easy thing to get people to jump into. All right. Solana Fox asked, is there still opportunity to participate in the alpha testing yet? We've only really got the names for the wave 1. So as we move into wave 2, there should be opportunities there as well, unless the wave 1 goes so well that we just go live and don't have to do wave 2. But I can't imagine that's the case. What we plan to do is wave 1 has all NVIDIA cards, and they're all about a 4060, 4090, generally anyways. And then we go into some AMD cards in the second wave, and we try some different configurations, different regions, and again expand out, and then see if we have to do a wave 3 as well. So I would say if you haven't signed up yet to be a part of the alpha testing, it's available. You can sign up through our website. It's on the NodeMint page, I believe.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I have 4 liquid cooled 3080 GPUs with multiple 850 watt PSU and mining motherboard. Can I basically he's saying if I have 4 GPUs on one system, can I operate that as a node?
No, like it is a mining motherboard, so you have to check if the motherboard supports sound. So a sound card is very important to have. But other than that, we also run some tests with Sly. Well, not Sly. It's not called Sly anymore since the 4000 series. But a dual setup with two 4090s, 4090 RTX. And it was able to run a shit ton of games, right, at the same time. Now, we don't know yet whether that's the most efficient setup, because we have to explore, okay, what is then the bottleneck into the system? So we have to do continued testing. Up to now, the bottleneck has been the GPU, but if for some reason you indeed have 4 GPUs, then it could be the CPU that's being the bottleneck, or it could be the upload speed or the download speed. We require 15 Mbit of upload speed per stream. So if you want to stream 8 streams at once, then you have to multiply the 15 times 8, right? So that's the calculation you need to be doing also internally in terms of the bandwidth. I think that also kind of
somebody else asked that same question.
Yeah. So let's just continue to the next. Then I think this one is answered.
Yeah.
Connect all of them to the same motherboard. Yeah, again, it's a mining motherboard, so you have to check if the sound card is there. And again, it's indeed something that we need to be testing also, right? So what is the bottleneck if you address the issue of, well, if you address the graphics card issue by putting 4 liquid-cooled 3080 GPUs into a single motherboard? Like, what happens? I don't know. I think you're one of the few people who has that setup, but let's see what people come up with.
But again, I would not be surprised to see more people kind of jumping in as mining becomes more expensive and as we become more profitable. Mining rigs are going to look our way. But yeah, that sound card. Games.
What I'd like to see though is a screenshot of this setup. So
I'd like to see images of everyone's rigs posted in our socials. It's a great way to promote what we're building. And again, for all the tech heads. And matter of fact, if you post, I'll say this: if you post an image and your specs of your machine up on our Twitter account, I'll have my 13-year-old run through and respond through my account on what's good and bad about your system, and that'll be all kinds of fun for him.
Sounds like a very good campaign where we can also provide maybe like YRX or something to the winners, to the top gaming setups.
Yeah, whoever impresses my son the most will give you a bucket of YRX.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Bowen's asking, what's the price of these nodes be? And are they sold at profit to YOM? And if so, how much?
Yeah. So we have a chart where you can. So a base node. So the simplest form is $99, right? It's very easy to get in, but if you really want to optimize for your rig, it depends on the performance of your rig, right? So we did a pre-sale also with the Chateau crypto community, and they effectively purchased the most expensive setup. That means they will receive multiple nodes, but also the device, right? So like so with that setup, you can indeed with your 1490 directly grab the maximum performance, maximum yield, and that's about $400, $500 per month, maybe more even. We have to look into that still.
But
Smash
if you're asking about the hardware itself, we have that as a 349, but again, that's 349 with 2 nodes attached right to the hardware. So that's
Yeah.
your entry price if you wanted to self-host.
Yeah, we have a very nice chart. Maybe you can.
It's going to be in that. It's in that article that I.
You mean like the hardware optimization setup?
Do I have that in there? No, I
Yeah,
don't have that in the
it should
article.
be a separate article. This is
Yeah, I
like
don't
for
have that. That's not part of the article that I'm getting ready to
hardware
drop.
tech nerds who want to really optimize most of their
All right,
yield.
we'll get that one on the list of articles to promote. All right.
After launch, when will YOM be expected to generate revenues through hosting games?
I mean, like, when are we going to be profitable off of just revenues, or when are we going to get our first revenues?
Yeah, immediately, right? So that's already during the testing. That's already the case.
Yeah.
Now that's generating revenue. That doesn't mean that the revenue covers for all of the costs, including the market. Yeah, that's really difficult, of course. But yeah.
I think our projection has us in profit in like 9 months, something like that.
We discussed that also in earlier. I think it was a similar question. It's like, how many nodes do you need, or how many studios do you need onboarded to run break even? It was around 30. Something.
We said it really depended on the ACU, or the concurrent users, right? That's the metric that we really judge on.
Of course, but we made some assumptions, right? So we kind of know, okay, depending on the studio size, depending on the game size, it could literally be a single game that by far not only consumes the entire network, but also needs an entire collection for themselves, right? So this is also the reason why we're not approaching the AAA. Let's say, well, AAA quality games, definitely we approach them, but let's say if we onboard Counter-Strike onto YOM, it's literally impossible to do that at this point, right? So we need several collections to be to be.
But I also, again, speaking to the studios I spoke to this week, the idea of helping some independent game studio become the next viral success, because the game mechanic is something nobody's seen before, but it's awesome. I look at Wordle and how Wordle took the world by storm. And it's a very simple mechanic. There are other mechanics out there that exist built inside of Unreal that are just waiting to be discovered. And getting just one of those on a network and going viral could possibly steal our entire network away from everybody else, and we have to sell more nodes. So
yeah, and I mean, like, we do, of course, a 20x efficiency increase versus alternatives versus competitors because of the nature of the network. But even then, because if it's cheaper, doesn't necessarily mean that as a studio you pay less, because the result is that more people actually get onboarded onto your game. So even though you may acquire, let's say, 500,000 of users and gamers onto your game, which makes your game massively successful, you're still required to pay for those costs, right? So it's still going to consume maybe 50K, 100K a month. It can really exponentially increase, right? If you really go viral. So it's for this reason that we're now implementing also an optional advertisement model, right? So if you're limited on a budget and you, as an indie, haven't figured out any alternative monetization models, so you don't know how to sell game skins, you don't know how to make money from your game, you can just simply turn on advertising and just let the game go viral, right? That's entirely up to you to do that.
It protects them from going viral, making them go bankrupt at the same time.
We don't want our clients to go bankrupt.
No, that would be bad. It's a bad business model. Solana Fox is saying here, I assume that all the nodes will be able to update, getting software updates. Yep. We've answered that. That's absolutely true. we did that? What upload speed, download speed, which is 15.
Yeah, we kind of tackled that. So depending on your node setup, so I said per node. So depending on your PC rig set configuration, right?
Right.
If you're running a 4090 RTX, you can run up to 8. That's what we say, but in practice, it's more than that. But let me not go there with empty promises. So we're sticking to 8. If you buy a plug and play device that limits you to 2 streams, right? So you can easily run that of most connections. So it's like a 30 Mbit upload speed. Does this conflict with existing internet usage? Well, the answer is hardly, because mostly what you're doing when you're browsing the internet, when you're downloading games, you're using the download speed, right? Those work independently. So if you are downloading stuff, that's entirely independent from uploading content. Now, if you are, of course, in a video call, that may hamper indeed your upload limit. So do take notice of that. So what are the internet? So if you're on a fiber connection, you have 1 gig of upload limit. That's what a lot of people, like 60%, 70% of Dutch people have. They can literally fill their entire houses with gaming rigs and start uploading games and streaming games. Sorry, not uploading, streaming games. But probably ISPs won't be very happy when that becomes the new movement. They will start limiting the upload speed.
Well, then you contract with them and pay for a bigger pipe, right?
Yeah, or that.
Because you can afford it. So this good question. Does a vesting period limit the ability to use YOM to purchase a node? So that's actually a good question. We should spend some time on that.
Where's the question? Oh, you're going way up.
Did I jump too far? Did I miss some?
Yeah, a lot of questions. So can I buy directly from the Phantom wallet? Yes, you can. And then you can participate also in the bridging process. So that answers the question. Hi guys, not sure if you know how to.
Yeah, he actually typed it in just before we started talking about the bridging, so we timed that perfectly.
Yeah. Okay.
Bowen says we should get to 69.420%. I don't know how much it would take to do that, but I'm kind of on board for getting that percentage up.
Right. And then how much does Peaq provide for the marketing budget? We cannot disclose that. Libra Gaming, and also they don't provide marketing budget, right? They may still, but still we are not going to disclose that, but they don't, right? They provide liquidity support, and that can take shape in many different forms.
And they include us in all their marketing. They involve us in the marketing that they're doing with their campaigns, and then again getting us on stage and inviting us to conferences and those kinds of things.
Yeah, so they help us in terms of marketing with their own marketing budget rather than that somebody. I have a 1 gig fiber. Okay, does vesting? Oh yeah, that's the one that you want to do. Does vesting period limit the ability to use? Does vesting? Oh no. Why would that limit your ability to use?
Well, if I use a bridge, vest my tokens, and I vest it for 6 months, but I want to buy a license before the 6 months is up, I can't pull it out of vesting to buy a license. Right.
You mean if we start indeed doing a sale in YOM during
the vesting period? Yeah,
that's funny. Then you get like a massive liquidity squeeze to the upside. Well, actually interesting. So what will happen indeed? If we would go indeed for a strategy where nodes can be purchased with YOM via our own website, our partners probably won't offer that, but let's say it's via our own website. And we do that while YOM is out of the market, then what happens is that YOM potentially goes to a very high number, and a lot of people will be upset that they bridged their tokens. But yeah, like that's there is also no liquidity. So if somebody starts selling again, it goes down. So it's mostly like
Right.
um, my
I think what
mining.
we're saying there is we haven't actually even determined whether we're going to sell nodes with YOM because we're working with partners who probably
Yeah,
won't accept YOM. So
yeah. We're not. So if you also like, if you want to do your own sales, then you have to act like a web shop, and you have to build backlinking, SEO. You have to start marketing that in certain ways. From your, of course, we have our own community, but we can sell also entirely without website, so to say. So it's still up to debate, but we also know that other people are better in doing sales. So we prefer using resellers and channel partners that have that as a core business. When first revenue, like that was years ago.
yeah, it's
So
already
actually,
happened.
how YOM started out was building experiences and games for partners and streaming those to YouTube, live streaming in real time, right? So we had the VR experiences, pixel streaming already back then, but it was only you were only able to watch, but you were able. So we did a stereoscopic stream to YouTube, so you were able to watch. It was the Rathenau Institute project, so it was in real time. Somebody on the stage were able to put on your headset, go to YouTube, and then in real time see the speaker talking inside of VR. So that was really good experience. But it's also a bit of a gimmick because then, like, whom are you targeting? You're targeting the people who are interested in that talk that have a VR headset that are willing to do all of the effort to.
And are available at that time that you're doing the live broadcast. Yeah.
So there were actually quite a lot of people present, but it was an internal corporate talk. So it
Right.
wasn't. It was like a private YouTube stream. That was one of the projects. We also did a TEDx stream. We did a project with GlaxoSmithKline, which is a large corporate. We did a project also with Metaverses, which was in the previous Bull Run project. I wanted to have space out. We did what other projects did we do? But this was all like before we started committing on now productizing all of our learnings, right? So we are already pixel streaming for quite some time, and now we realized, okay, the biggest issue is the cost, because with a lot of the projects, a lot of partners, they're like, yeah, can we keep this on? Oh yeah, we had the Dutch tax office as a client as well. But then the question is like, can we keep this on forever? And it's like, yeah, you can, but then you have to pay AWS, and that's like 20 times as expensive as going for DePIN. So
Hey, can I make a T-shirt that says "Prioritize your learnings"? Can I have that quote? I'm gonna put it on a T-shirt. I love the phrase, and I'm just enough of a geek to wear a shirt that says that. Prioritize your learnings.
productize your learnings. Did I say that?
Yeah, you said that. I think you've said it more than once. You just said it just now, and I think I've heard you say it a few times before, and I like it. It's good. Yeah, the things you should make money from the things you learn,
Yeah,
and that includes your mistakes or
and that's scale it.
what felt like mistakes, right? All right.
Um, yeah, we've referenced the marketing relaunch. Indeed, how will this look like with the incoming bridging and parent liquidity removal soon after? Well, the marketing, yeah, so marketing relaunch is indeed a vague concept, but we decided to still put it in there because there will be changes also to the website, significant ones. We will start marketing and selling the nodes, right? There won't be any marketing of the token during the time that the token is bridged. But indirectly, of course, people may want to accumulate or will be on whitelist to get their hands on the YOM tokens. But that may be a side product of selling the nodes.
It's again the idea that we've got to raise awareness among the studios to know that there's a better way to distribute games on our network. That's large part of our marketing too, is to catch the attention of all these game developers. So it's
Yep.
not really the marketing is not necessarily focused on the token. It's more focused on what it is our product is.
And also, it's illegal to sell your token to the public, right? So it's literally also something that we cannot do, and it's also not in our interest to do, because as I said earlier, our tokenomics is very set on building a system that reduces, or let's say increases scarcity through reducing supply via network adoption. So the only thing that we need to do is onboard studios that just pay with Stripe and start using the network and get the node operators on, and then it will do its own magic. And then at some point, of course, we can accelerate this with with QLs, but ideally we don't want to pay $50,000 for 10 tweets, because that's what's happening currently in the space, right? You see,
It's crazy.
It's bizarre, it's crazy, and the influencers know that, and they know that most of the tokens, they rely entirely on the influencers promoting that. So we need to stay away from that as far as possible.
And even to the point to say, if you're following if you're making your decisions on KOLs, please just be aware, a lot of those KOLs are they're incentivized to make you feel like super excited about something that may or may not have any real fundamentals behind it. So just be obviously be a smart investor is, I guess, the whole point of that.
Yeah, and especially I
don't know, I didn't tell you this whole story, but over the Christmas break, I had a conversation with a neighbor, and he brought some friends over. They all wanted to learn about blockchain and Bitcoin, and I had to even start with the idea of what's the difference between retail and institutional investors. I kept on referring to retail investors, and they kept on saying, "Well, what do you mean by retail investors?" And I'm like, "Us guys, we're all retail investors. We're not institutional. We don't have large databases behind us. We don't have a whole team of people telling us what to do. We're retail investors, and retail gets fleeced all the time by the institutional ones. They count on retail investors not knowing enough, and they take our money all the time. So just be smart." Anyways, I never get to tell you the whole story. I probably should have.
I wouldn't say that the institutional investors are necessarily evil, right? They're more rational, and because they're rational, they're making money on you.
That way,
So you should be rational as well, and that means don't take advice from influencers, especially not the shouty ones that that are bought at such ridiculously high prices that anybody would sell their own souls at. So
when I start making our thumbnails look like this, stop watching us, because that's not our thumbnail.
We would ironically do it.
Yeah, maybe.
Why not? Now it's important to speak the language and still to build an ecosystem and a proposition that aligns to retail, because that's also where our target audience is in the end. So we still have to think in that direction, but at the same time, we have to start building value for retail, right? So that's the key. So align with the way retail is thinking, and then build value that actually works for them.
Yeah, right.
Instead of
let's assume YOM goes crazy after the node launch and the SEX listing goes to $1. Investors who got in after the conversion will then be able to sell and take their profits. The investors who got in after the conversion will then be able to sell and take the profits, while the early investors sit on the locked-in holdings unless we don't choose to invest in the. Are you assuming that YOM token that goes to $1 is a Solana version of the YOM token?
Sorry, what are you saying? Which comment are
I'm reading Hamza Ali's. He's got like 4 of them together.
He's explaining something, I think.
Yeah.
He's not asking any question.
The investor who goes in after the conversion will then be able to sell and take their profits, while the early investors sit on locked-in holdings unless we don't choose vesting, and then we give away a lot of our holdings. And then in 8 months, when the bull run is probably over and all the cryptos are crashing, this first of all back to 20 cents. And then we've missed out on all the good prices.
That's not how it goes, right? So you're missing a lot of the important bits. So the moment the network is operational, then we start burning. First of all, second of all, we start adding centralized exchanges into the mix. Start doing marketing on that. There will be a lot of content out. Suddenly, the YOM token becomes accessible to people outside of the Solana ecosystem. We will get visibility on the launch pads. Immediate, let's say at TGE, the only people buying are those buying at 15 cents, and the only people selling are those who bought at 15 cents, because nobody gets unlocked at TGE. So what happens at TGE, all of the trading, all of the people who get into the YOM ecosystem, they set and they anchor at the new price. And at the same time, we're also scaling up the adoption of the network. So this argument holds true if nothing would happen in terms of the network, if nothing would happen in terms of the exchanges, nothing would happen in terms of the marketing. And then even then, it doesn't hold true because we also burn tokens, right? So the bridging, even if you decide to go for 100% liquid, then we still burn all of the people, all of the tokens of holders that are dormant, right? That didn't decide to bridge, or they didn't care, or it's the maxi stack. So all of these tokens get a clean reset, so to say.
So some people are responding to him as well. But I go back to the one fundamental principle that we push through is that we put it in the hands of people to make up their own mind about, I believe the one's going to last longer, or I believe YOM's going to do much better, or I don't believe that YOM's going to do much better, so I want to get liquid immediately. We put it in their hands and let them make that decision. So really it's up to people to do as they feel makes the most sense to them.
Yeah, I'm also trying to, because let's assume that YOM goes crazy, right? So who got in after the conversion? So with the conversion, we mean after the bridge, then be able to sell and take profits. Okay, so this is literally, okay, what's the unlock of VC at TG? That's the question. Well,
is it?
Yeah, I think that may be the question.
That's not how I read it. How I read it was, if I have $100, I lock it up. It goes from 15 cents to $1. That $100 is now whatever the multiplier is, right? But I can't sell it yet because it's locked up, and then I have to wait, and the bull market crashes, and now I can only sell it 20 cents, not the $1 when it was at its peak. But again, that's why you have to make the decision of, well, lock it up for 3 months if you're worried about that, or lock it up for 2 months, or don't lock it up at all. Right?
Yeah.
But that decision is on you.
Yeah, but as long as you bridge, because if you don't bridge, then you lose value. So bridging, whatever you do, it's always good. Just do it, right? That needs to be on your mind. Bridging, bridge your tokens. If you have tokens, then you bridge them and you make money. If you don't trust us, that's also fine. Go buy Fartcoin instead, right? Up to you. We don't tell you what to do, but bridge those tokens.
You might be late for Fartcoin, just to say.
A lot of people actually start buying now, right? Because it's in the top 100. It's the moment. So when it arrives in the top 100, retail starts.
Are you even watching? You're watching those charts? I don't even watch those anymore.
No, I specifically Fartcoin because that's of interest to me. It's not in the top 100.
We've gone almost an hour and a half, so this video is going to get long. Is there one last one? Bowen's just asking, what's the projected buyback of YOM in 2050? Buyback.
Yeah, it's indeed it is locked up, but it's vested, right? So it's linear vested. It's not a cliff. So even if you say you go for, let's say YOM crashes to 1.5 cents, right, and you have to wait 24 months, then you get a 10x on value. So even after 3 months, and you claim all of the vested tokens, so it's like minute by minute unlock, you will have your money back. So, and all of the remainder you can consider profits.
Linear vesting.
Yeah, that's the linear vesting, right? So that's really important because there is indeed a difference between a lockup, like a cliff kind of system, and a vesting system that unlocks as we go. So it's definitely not a lockup. It's vesting.
Right. YOM is great, but if I don't lock up my tokens when I bridge, do I get the same amount of tokens?
Sorry, where?
Michael Mack.
If I don't lock up my tokens, so if you don't decide to vest when you bridge, do I get the same amount of token? You get the same value, right? So the remaining, so there is a difference. So if you decide to go for 100% liquid, that difference gets burned. So everybody, including yourself, also burns profits from the burning process, right? So it's not going back to YOM. It's not going back to the to whomever. It's just a way also for us to get a clean house here, and also to prevent indeed that if you do a TG at 15 cents, that a lot of people will just take profit at TG. That doesn't work. So we have to do something to prevent that from happening.
You said before that just to be sure the team will never sell tokens, 16% of all YOM on the community to keep the team running because there's enough revenue to keep the comp going. That's true.
Yeah, that's correct. Well, it's so like we split. So there's the foundation, there's the non-profit, and there's the company, right? So if the company expenses, these are all covered by the company. But anything that's related to specific token activities, it's paid for through the foundation, right? So that could be bounties, for example, or it could be certain marketing KOLs, that kind of stuff. So any like token expenses are put on the foundation, on the treasury.
All right. Well, we did good 90 minutes. Pretty good. Any parting words for everybody?
Any parting words? I would say do your own research. There's definitely going on like a lot under the hood. So we already try to simplify it and make it as accessible as possible for most people to read. Most people, they just read the headlines anyway. So then it's an easy solve. You just have to bridge your tokens. That's it. You make money. But for those who really want to understand what's going on, it can be I think quite a puzzle to figure out how it all works together. But there are quite some smart people in the community that have figured it out. For example, with JJ sitting around in the community, he's incredible. You can literally ask him anything. Whatever we publish, he somehow intuitively, automatically understands how everything ties together. So there are definitely people around that you can ask also for advice.
And what's good about JJ and other people like him in the community is they'll put pointing questions at us, right, and force it. They end up being the anvil that we sharpen the sword on, which has been great. I don't know. I don't follow too many communities any longer as tightly as I used to, but there were plenty of communities I used to be involved in where as soon as you asked a tough question, they told you to bugger off, right? We just try not to do that. I mean, obviously, if you're griefing and everything, we don't like that. But hard questions are good for us to hear because we want to be able to make sure we're doing it the right way.
We like to also encourage that, right? So anything that, we like there was, so for every project when they start out, there's this phase where the average, let's say, amount of characters per message is usually around 2, which is G and M. And it's like very low quality conversations. But the further you go, the more the ecosystem expands, the more you get the right holders in. We see like the intelligence, the general overall intelligence and the quality of the questions asked in the community just increasing by the day, increasing exponentially. So that's really encouraging. And that's also, I think, a reminder that quantity doesn't count in this space, right? So there are a lot of VCs and people that are assessing, okay, like how much does the community chat get spammed? Well, it's not about the spam, it's about the quality conversations going on, right? So that's what you want to look for. If you're looking for projects like YOM or other projects, look for those quality conversations. And lastly, just if you like the stream, I would say retweet it, like it, comment under it. You also get some YOM, I believe. Oh, no, you get some YRX.
YRX, yeah.
If you do all of these actions, so you just, you just.
If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel yet, please do that because.
Please also do that. But go to Discord. So after you did all of these tasks, so you can claim also your YRX, which is going to be very useful for you later on to boost the yields on your nodes, to collect airdrops, to be a part of the DAO. So in terms of the governance, all of these things interrelate to that soul-bound token, right? So there's the distinction between YOM, which is tradable, which has intrinsic value, which is the network currency, versus the soul-bound token, which is like the experience points, your level in the ecosystem. So you wanna maximize both. Right?
Yeah, level up.
You want to level up.
And you want to prioritize your learnings. That's another one you want.
And productize your experience points. Productize your YRX. Yes.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you all sticking in. We'll be back again next week. I got a guest lined up. We're going to talk more about the gaming industry and where it's going. So talk to you all next week.